Good morning, Rabbi. We are continuing on Masechet Berachot, and we are holding on Daf Nun Daled Amud Bet. 3 lines from the bottom. The Limud of Amud Yomi for Chodesh Tevet has been dedicated by Shahab and Sherazar Rabbi for health, happiness, and prosperity, tzlacha of their family. It's been dedicated for Rufah Shalema of Rachel Bat Miriam. Also, it should be for Rufah Shalema of Miriam Bat Nosrat. That should have Rufah Shalema Amin. So we are continuing on the beautiful concepts of Perek Tshi, the first Mishnah. And the Gemara says, in spirit of counting numbers of things that are good or not good for certain things, the Gemara says, Ve'amar Rav Yehuda, Loshat Dvarim, Ha'ma'arich bahen ma'arichin yamav u'shnotav. There are 3 things that if you do them long time, they will elongate your life. The longer you do it, the longer your life will be. What are those 3? Says the Gemara, Hamarich b'tfilato, someone that davens a long tfilah. Ve'hamarich al shulchano, someone that stays a long time on his shulchan. Ve'hamarich bebet hakiseh, and someone that stays a long time in bet hakiseh, the bathroom. Now, davening long, you could understand. The other 2, we have to really see what the Gemara says. But davening a long time, the Gemara really says, in Masechet Shabbat, Daf Yud, Amarav Zman Torah lechud v'zman tefillah lechud. There was a person, one of the students of the Khatam Sofer, and Khatam Sofer used to daven very, very long tefillot. Shmona Esrei took 20, 30 minutes, like standing, crying in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Someone asked the Khatam Sofer, how do you have such amazing children? The Khatam Sofer, the Sarf, was tremendous. And he picked up his hat. He said, do you know how many times I filled this hat with tears? That Hashem should give me good children. He said, Khatam Sofer, when he stepped, Oseh Shalom, you saw the place he was standing was wet with tears, every single tefillah. So one of his Talmidim asked him, he said, Rabbi, you know how much Torah you could write? He was a prolific writer. So you know how much Torah you could write in time of tefillah? Okay, but so Khatam Sofer told him, beautiful. So based on this Gemara in Masechet Berachot, Daf Nun Daled Amud Bet, first of all, he told him, he said, Gemara in Shabbat says, Amar Rava, Zman tefillah lechud, Zman Torah lechud. Each one has to have their own time, and each one has, but then he told him, the Gemara says in Nun Daled Amud Bet, Hamarich b'tfilato ma'arichin lo yamav u'shnotav. It says when you daven long, Hashem gives you extra life. You make up all the hours that you missed on tefillah. Hashem gives it to you in a quality time. You can write and learn and teach and do the things that you miss. People think that you run out of tefillah, you go to faster minyan, and the 18 minutes shouldn't chas v'shalom become hametz, right away out. What you gain from davening in proper tefillah, a long tefillah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what you lose, the time you lose there, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you with bracha elsewhere. Anyways, that's the Gemara that says here. Now let's study these 3 things and what the reason behind them is. Says the Gemara, V'hamarich b'tefillah, last line, Ma'aliutai, is you suggesting that's a good thing to daven a long tefillah? I have learned otherwise, says the Gemara. V'hamar Rav Chiya bar Abba amar Rabbi Yochanan. Don't you know that we learned in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Kol ma'arich b'tfilato u'ma'ayen ba sof ba lidei ke'ev lev. That any person that davens a long tefillah u'ma'ayen ba, and he looks after it. That means he says, I daven such a beautiful tefillah. Now it's going to happen. Watch how my tefillah is going to come through. If you do the sof ba lidei ke'ev lev, you'll come to heartache and have problems and sickness. Is not a good thing. Shenemar, as it says, tochelet memushacha machala lev. When you have tochelet memushacha, tochelet means to hope, to wait, and it's a language of tefillah. Memushacha, if it's elongated, machala lev, it brings sickness and pain to your heart. So that's the teaching of Rabbi Yochanan. And not only that, I have another teaching that shows you that's a bad thing. Rabbi Yitzchak taught, Shlosha dvarim maskirin avonotav shel adam. A lot of times we do things and it does not come to judgment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's covered. It doesn't come to the Bedin Shel Mala to be judged. But then there's items that if you do, there's times that they open your books, basically say, okay, let's audit this guy, right? See what's up with him. There are three things, says Rabbi Yitzchak, that invoke an audit on your avonot. Now, all of the things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rav Hesed, with his chesed has given you, without deserving, they say, okay, let's open the books and be exacting. What are those three things? One of them is if you put yourself in danger, right? For instance, you pass by a wall that is halfway falling down. You put yourself in a dangerous situation. You don't have to put yourself in that. Don't walk under the wall that's falling, right? Don't go in, I'm not sure if bungee jumping is dangerous or not, right? Don't do something that's dangerous. Put yourself in danger and say, oh, it will be okay. You put yourself in danger, you're basically saying, I'm confident that I have the zchuyot of surviving this. And that will invoke a judgment because they say, oh, you're that confident. Let's see what you are actually. Open the books. The other one is Amoser Din Al Chavero. Someone that has a dispute, has a problem, someone has bothered him, say, Hashem should judge, Hashem should, I leave it up to Hashem, let Hashem punish him. Well, the preconceived notion of saying such a thing is that I am so good that because he bothered me, he is or she is fit to be punished because of me. That means Hashem is going to see, oh, you bothered this tzaddik, I'm going to punish you. That's what you're basically saying I'm such a tzaddik that if he or she bothers me, Hashem is going to punish them, right? So you're confident that you're a tzaddik. Hashem says, oh, let's see. Let's audit the case and open the books and see if you're talking what would you think you are. So that invokes a judgment on a person as well. And the third one, which is the punchline over here, really mentioned second the Gemara, is this very thing. If you do iyun tefillah, if you daven, I say, I daven such a tefillah, Hashem should be proud that he has such a person like me in his world, right? It doesn't happen that often. So now my tefillah is going to come through. So you're so confident that Hashem should definitely accept your tefillah. That means that you're confident that, you're a tzaddik. So that invokes also a judgment on a person. So it's not such a good thing to daven a long Shemoneh Esrei, apparently, says the Gemara. So how do you say that one of the things that actually elongate your life is davening a long Shemoneh Esrei? The Gemara says, no. It's not talking about the same thing over here. Halo kasha. It's not a question altogether to begin with. This latter thing, it's not talking about davening a long Shemoneh Esrei. It's your attitude after you daven long Shemoneh Esrei. If you demand and expect and look after your tefillah to come through, that shows that you are too overconfident, and that's what invokes the judgment. But if you daven a long Shemoneh Esrei and you're not expecting anything, you just do your thing and you go on with life, that's a good thing. That actually gives you arichut yamim. The more you spend time for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you focus on HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you that life. You remember in Daf Lamed Aleph earlier on we had that Chasidim Arishonim, Hayushoim Sha'achat Kodem Tefillah, the original Chasidim, they would wait 1 hour before Tefillah to negate all the physical matters from their heart and completely connect with Hashem. Then daven a long Tefillah for 1 hour, then wait another hour after Tefillah to completely let it soak in and impact, have its impact on the person. And the Gemara asked the obvious question, says, wait a second, 9 hours a day. How do they retain their Torah? They don't have time for Chazara and Amud Yomi. How do they make money? Gemara says, Kevan the Chasidim, and because they focus on HaKadosh Baruch Hu also sends bracha that they learn one time, they remember. They do 5 minutes of work and the bracha comes pouring into their life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays back, so to speak, with quality of life in that way. So here is the same thing. Hashem gives you the extra time that you spend on the tefillah, given that you don't demand, you don't expect. It's not like you afterwards you're ma'ayin. The iyun tefillah is the problem, not davening a long Shemona Esrei. Says the Gemara. V'hamarich al shulchana, first middle wide lines. V'hamarich al shulchano. Why is it a good thing to have a long seudah? Why, you're eating 6 courses instead of 5? What exactly is happening over there? You're indulging more in olam hazeh, that's supposed to elongate your life because you have another piece of steak? Says the Gemara, no. Dilma ati ania, you're waiting, hoping that you're going to find an ani to bring him to your shulchan, and that's the zchut that the person has. When you are focused on aniyim, you're focused on feeding the needy and taking care of the people who don't have, that's the zchut. So if you eat for 5 minutes and you leave, so the odds are you're not going to get that person. But if you have a longer seudah and people know and people come, then you could benefit other people. That's the zchut, right?
Does this also apply now that that's not the case? Like, should we elongate our seudah?
Well, it depends on the person, really. My grandfather, Abba Shalom, used to go every single day. Before he ate lunch, he would go find an ani. He would not eat beforehand. He would bring an ani, feed him. So, okay, you eat, you say shit that you need tzedakah, give him some money. He'll send him off with the bracha, and then he'll send to eat. It's hard to find people like that nowadays, but it's really dependent on the person themselves. It's not necessarily to go physically find someone, but to be focused on helping and supporting, not just supporting Torah, but supporting aniyim is something very big. So the Gemara brings something that Rabbi brings that people Hasidim, Harishonim, when they wanted to order a coffin, they would not do this like fancy $5,000 smooth, fancy oak wood type of. They would take their shulchan. This is Hasidim in Sorfat. He says in Sorfat, friends, the Hasidim would make their coffin out of the wood of their table. Why? Because of the Gemara that we're going to have right now. Says the Gemara, how do we know that this is a zchut? Tichtiv, as it says, hamizbeach etz shalosh amod gavoah. This is, even though that's talking about building the mizbeach and shulchan, it's not a pasuk in the Torah. It's really a pasuk in Sefer Yechezkel, Perek Mem Aleph, and it says hamizbeach etz. The mizbeach was made out of wood. It gives the dimensions of the mizbeach: shalosh amod gova, ve'orko shtayim, u'miktzeotav lo, ve'orko ve'kirotav etz. And then the entire passage is talking about the Mizbeach. And then it says, Vaydaber Elai, Hashem spoke to me, said, this is the pasuk that we say right before benching, to actually bring this very element of the Gemara into our benching. It says, this is the shulchan that's in front of Hashem. The obvious question is, the pasuk was talking about anything but the shulchan. It's talking about the mizbeach, the build and the sizes and dimensions of the mizbeach. And then it says at the end, Hashem told me, zeh shulchan Hashem lifnei Hashem. So are you talking about the mizbeach or are you talking about the shulchan? Very confusing pasuk. And Gemara asks that. It's the same pasuk. The ending of the pasuk says that. It starts with mizbeach, and it ends with shulchan. What is this? Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Elazar, the Amri Tarvai, who both Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar say, you know what the pasuk is telling you? Kol zman shebet hamikdash kayam. When we had the Bet Hamikdash, mizbeach mechaper al Yisrael. Mizbeach, the korbanot that we brought on mizbeach, were the element of atonement and kapara for Klal Yisrael. You know what it is now that we don't have the mizbeach, we don't have the korbanot, we can't go to the Bet Hamikdash. Ve'achshav shulchano shel adam mechaper alav. Now is your shulchan that is mechaper alav. Now there are many elements of this Gemara. The way you eat is by itself a kapara. The Kaf HaChaim used to eat, and And when he ate in private, behind locked doors, nobody could disturb him because he was eating al pi kavanot of Ariya Kadosh, every bite and every chew, every kavanot, 32 teeth, 32 shvilei chokhmah, so much depth into, because that becomes part of a person's reality, the food. So it's a very big and profound thing. But this is a simple level that your shulchan, how you act around your shulchan, how you open your doors to other people and offer them, shulchano shel adam mechaper alav. When you bring aniyim, you help other people, and aniyim is not people nowadays that they're homeless. There are many people who could be very rich, but they are homeless. They don't have anyone to go to for Sudat Shabbat, and so on and so forth. I leave it up to your creativity to know, what this includes, but there are many people who emotionally need the thing to be hosted by people, and they're ani. They're emotionally ani. They're ani in other aspects of their life. So says the Gemara, so what is marich bebet hakiseh have to do with this, right? So says the Gemara, why staying long time in the bet hakiseh, in the bathroom, is any good? Gemara says, mal yutahu, that's a good thing to stay a long time in bet hakiseh. We learned in Braita otherwise. 10 things are bad for your health. They actually cause problems with your digestive system. They will create problems, the rectum, and so on and so forth. Says the Gemara. From them is if a person eats reed leaves, or ale gefanim, wine leaves, or lulave gefanim, or morige bema, areas of the animal meat that are not smooth, like the inside of the stomach and so on. The shidro shel dag, the spine of a fish. The dag maliach she'eno mebushal kol sorko, deep salted fish that's not fully cooked. V'ashotesh marayayin, if you drink wine settlement. And if a person uses to wipe themselves in the bathroom with seed or charsid, different earthware, and a person that reuses a piece of stone that they used to use to wipe themselves that already has been used by somebody else, that's not hygienically proper, says the Gemara. The punchline is, even tolei atzmo bet hakiseh, if you hang your body over sitting in the bet hakiseh for a long time, that's bad for you, right? It causes hemorrhoid and problems. Says the Gemara, lo kasha. It's not a question. That is hatole atzmo bebet hakiseh. When you are not sitting, but you are, putting all your weight, hanging yourself over your knees. Wow. That puts pressure on the rectum, and that causes tachtoniot. But if you're sitting with support on your weight, and you wait for your bodily system and bodily needs to do their process, to take its course and completely empty your body from waste, that is a good thing. Says the Gemara, the marich metali, the marich v'lo tali. One of them is putting pressure on that area, and by hanging his body's weight on it, and that's bad. And the other one is someone that sits with support, and it's not putting extra pressure. Gemara brings a story from the Chassid Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai. Hahimatronita, this rich woman, Goya, told Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai, you look so good. You look so good, as though you are in the business of Megadel Hazirim or Marve Beribit. Megadel Hazirim in Chazir business, so to speak. And Marve Beribit is loan sharks. Why those two? Because those two are easy money, a lot of money, and very easy. So therefore, the guy is not working hard. He looks great. He's rich, and he's not working hard even to become rich. So she says, you look so good. You must be in the right business, right? So he says to her, Amarlah, Hemnuta, I swear, Ledidit Arvaihu Asira. Both of those businesses are asur for me. I cannot have those. So you wonder why I look healthy. It's because I am healthy. Why is that? because there are from the path that I take every day, there are 24 bate kisaot there, and I use them all because I want to make sure that this is something. And Ben Ish Chai writes, actually, Kabbalistically speaking, even it's not good to wait, be mashhen kabav. He gives an example of you reading a daf of Zohar, a daf of Gemara, and in the middle you feel that you need to use the bathroom. He says, don't tell yourself, oh, let me finish the Amud, the daf, and then go right away. And that is both based on this Gemara and also based on deeper sources of the mystical areas. That is the right thing to do, says the Ben Ish Chai. So this is what Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai answered the Matronita. Rav Yehuda said another three. We spoke about three things that elongate your life and give you a longevity. Now, three things that cut the person's life short. What are those three? Spiritual things. Says the Gemara. Someone that they offer him an aliyah to Sefer Torah and he doesn't take it. That's, by the way, the reason that you'll see sometimes Rabbi makes a mistake. But many times, if you already called the person with name and you say, okay, call them, even though the halachic order should not be like this and so on, go off. Why? Is it because of this Gemara? Because if you call somebody to the Torah officially and they don't take it, it's not good. Why is that? Because the Torah is the source of longevity and life. If you reject it, you're rejecting life. That Chas Shalom invokes a judgment on a person for his life to not be as long as it's supposed to be, even Chas Shalom. And second thing is, if they give him kos shel bracha, they offer him to say Birkat Hamazon, and he doesn't do it. He says, "Oh, give it to somebody else." If they gave it already to you to bench, you don't say no. You don't reject the kos shel bracha. And the third one is a person that conducts himself with rabbanut. He conducts himself with leadership over other people, with a higher status over other people. And we're going to see where we learn all of these things from. Says the Gemara, Sefer Torah likrot beno koreh, yichtiv, the Sefer Torah, we know because the pasuk says about Torah, ki hu chayecha v'orach yamecha. The Torah is your life, is your longevity. And therefore, if you reject it, you're rejecting longevity. Kos shel bracha, this that if they give you the Birkat Hamazon, kos shel bracha, they used to bench on a kos shel bracha. If they give you and you don't do it, dichtiv, as it says, va'avarcha mevarechecha, that Hashem says, I will bench the ones who bench you. I will give bracha, and bracha is from lashon ribui. What does bracha mean? Baruch ata. It's the source of multiplication and mevarech is increase always, right? So therefore, it increases not just your physical, but it increases your life as well. And what is this? When a person benches, they say a bracha of the host, the bracha for a host. So they are giving a bracha to the host. Hashem says, I will give you longevity. That's what it's talking about. Not the benching for Hashem. But when you say bracha and you bless the host, when you bless another person, now this is the official one, right? So it's very surprising that some of the like Ashkenaz, they don't have this thing of the harachaman for the host, because we have a longer text that you bless the Baal Abayit and the Shulchan and so on. So if you bless them, Hashem says, I bless v'avarcha. I will bless the, and therefore, if you reject being the one to say that bracha for the host, you're rejecting giving bracha to another person. That chas v'shalom is not good.
What's the connection with the cup? No, is that what that's just what it's referring
to? Because usually the one that would bench serve the cup also. Actually, there's a beautiful tshuva from the Chacham Tzvi. Chacham Tzvi, the father of Hagaon Yabetz, the Yaakov Emden, he was Be'etzim, he was Ashkenazi, he became a Rav of the Sfardim, Amsterdam, and other places, a tremendous personality of Torah, and he has few tshuvot that are very, very famous. One of them is a tshuva that he wrote about the Nazir. I believe it's in Siman Kuf Samechet of the tshuvot of the Chacham Tzvi. He says there was this shaliach from Hebron that came to Eastern Europe, where he was, to collect funds for Aniei Eretz Yisrael. And this guy was a Nazir Shimshon. He was a Nazir. Now nowadays, Nazir Shimshon, not Nazir Shimshon. If you do a Nazirut, nowadays you automatically become Nazirut Shimshon, because even though that the Gemara says Stam Nazirut is only 30 days, you have to bring a korban afterwards. You have to bring. We don't have any of those things, so automatically you'll be stuck, so to speak, with your Nazirut. I still remember one of my friends, one of the people who I knew in yeshiva. One day he got very excited. He was learning about, and he said, "I want to be a Nazir for 30 days. I want to be a Nazir." He made a Nazirut on himself. So then I heard, I was like, "Oh no!" And then you're Nazir for a lifetime now. He's like, "What?" And we Hatarat Nedarim, you could do it because he didn't realize that if he makes the Nazirut, it will be following him for a life. But be as it may, this person was a Nazir Shimshon, and at the time that this happened, the Abbats did not realize what had happened. They gave him to bench, and they wanted to give him kosher bracha, right? That's like the worst thing you could do. Like Hamoshit Kos Yain Le Nazir is the all-time example of Lifnei Iver Lo Titen Michshol. Can't do that. He said, I can't bench. They said, oh, no problem. We have somebody else hold the cup, right? And you will bench. Kosher bracha. So they did this actually, and the Chacham Tzvi did not realize this at the time. Then they told him afterwards. He's like, they can't do that. You can't have somebody else hold the cup when you bench, because they go together. And he brings number of rayot. I think three rayot he brings in his tshuva. One of them is from this Gemara. He says, wait a second. Why do you say, in your question, why do you say kosher bracha? Why do you say kosher bracha? Who cares about the kosher bracha? You could give the kos to somebody else, and you will be the one to bench and say the bracha for the host. So it says the Chacham Tzvi, you see that the kosher bracha and the benching goes really together. You cannot have somebody else hold the cup and you say the benching. The one that leads the benching is the one that holds the kosher bracha, and it go together. Says the Gemara.
The host be your immediate, like your parents?
Yes.
And you're not living with them. It's fine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the children who say Birkat Hamazon at home, they will definitely say the
Even
part.
if they're living in their parents.
That's correct. Right.
Already, is this something when the host offers you to the Birkat Hamazon and give it to someone else at the table?
That's correct. So one of those things is you have to be proficient in, you have to know how to lead the benching, because if they give it to you, you don't want to pass it on. Says the Gemara, Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu le Moshe. Now, sorry, I skipped. Says the Gemara, Avarcha bevarechecha, ve'hamanhig atzmo b'rabanut. How do you know that someone that conducts themselves with assuming leadership over other people, that their life would be shortened? Why was it that Yosef, who was one of the youngest of the Shvatim, died the earliest out of all of the Shvatim? He was the first one. Pasuk says, "Vayamot Yosef v'kol echav v'kol adorahu." Yosef was the first one to die within the brothers. Why was his life cut short? Because he conducted himself with Rabbanut, with superiority over other people. Again, this is a Rabbanut is mikaveret et baalea, say Chazal, and so on. Says the Gemara, ve'amar Rav Yehuda amar Rav. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, once in the spirit of the three things that cost something, shlosha srichim rachamim. You have to constantly daven for three items. What are those three? Melech tov, shana tova, v'chalom tov. A good leader, a good king, a good year, and chalom tov, and a good dream, right? Because these things are, this is machloket mefarashim, how to understand this Gemara exactly, but these things, according to some, they constantly could be changed, and you need constant rachamim and tefillah for them, because the king, melech tov tichtiv, palgemayim lev melech biad Hashem. The heart of king is in the hand of Hashem, right? Lev melachim biad Hashem, how the pasuk says. So therefore, it's not like a set thing that from Rosh Hashanah this king is good or this king is bad, this president is good, this president. Every decision, every act, every move could be moved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu because their decisions is in the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You constantly daven for it. And the same thing is with the Shana. The notion of, let's say, it's once you had the Rosh Hashanah, is a good year or is a bad year. Come back next Elul, daven for next year. If this one didn't end up being good, it doesn't seem to have been good. No, every day is a new day in the year because the pasuk says, "Hashana," it says by Shana Tova Dichtiv, Tamid Enei Hashem Elokecha Bah. The eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are on it constantly. Berachot Hashana V'ad Acharei, from the very beginning of the year until the very end of the year. So every moment you could daven for a good year. If it hasn't been good until now, it could become good now from now on. Even though that the Gemara says elsewhere, the Gemara says in Masechet Betzad after Amud Aleph in the first line, and the Gemara also says this in Masechet Balabatar Daf Yud, the Gemara says from the beginning of the year until the end of the year, your parnasah is set and so on and so forth. Fine, there are certain things that are said, but you could change details of that. The Gemara seems to say here from a day to day. So you never give up on davening on having a good year. If it doesn't seem to have been good enough, you daven. If it seems to have been too good, don't be too confident and happy. Continue davening to keep it the way it's going. Says the Gemara, Chalom Tov, Tichtiv ve'tachlimeni ve'techayeni. That's the lashon of Chalom. That it's in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so therefore you daven for it. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Shlosha Devarim, Machriz Aleim HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'atzmo. There are three things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu announces them himself, which basically tells you that these are the three that may not make sense to people. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes things in his own hand to say, I am doing this. And even if you don't understand exactly what's happening, don't worry, I'm on top of it. I'm the one that's deciding. I'm the one that's announcing. What are they? Ra'av v'sova parnas tov. Right? When someone is suffering financially, right? You think, this guy should have millions, and look at him. Or sova, the other way around. Someone is making a tremendous living, and I say, this is Rasha, this and he's making. Hashem says, we had this earlier on. Moshe Rabbeinu asked for this, and according to one answer in the Gemara, Hashem didn't even answer him. Moshe Rabbeinu says, educate me. How do you run the world? And Chazal say that what he was asking was, why is it tzaddik v'ralo, rasha v'tovlo? You have a tzaddik that's suffering, you have a rasha that's prospering. What is going on? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, you can't understand it. It's one thing you don't see the full scope of the full picture, therefore don't ask. So therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu announces on those things himself. And parnas tov, right? And a good leader who becomes, who gets to climb up the rank and become the person, you will think, this guy should have become. Why did this guy get to be the president? He's not even alive, or he doesn't even know it that he's alive. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says,
maybe no one prayed for a good thing.
Maybe no one could be. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, this is beyond something that I declare and I decide. Says the Gemara. That's why Ra'av, so Hashem called it to come. You see, Hashem is announcing it. By Sava, also it says, I call upon the produce and I increase it. Parnas tov dichtiv. By parnas tov, a good leader, it says, look, I have called by name that who's going to be doing this, Bezalel. Which means really that Bezalel was pre-chosen and selected for this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu announced it himself. It's not that, let's do a, by chance. It's not such a thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided it himself. Now, in that spirit, the Gemara says, Amar Yitzchak, en ma'abidim parnas ala tzibur, ela im ken nimlachim b'tzibur. You cannot appoint somebody to a position of leadership unless you check with the tzibur to see that it's like democracy. But people are okay with it. You can't just do a monarch thing of dictatorship, it has to be with the consent of the governed, as someone said, right? The consent of governed is an important element in the Torah. How do you see this? Shelema, Re'u kara Hashem b'shem Bezalel. See that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was called by name Bezalel ben Uri ben Hur Mata Yehuda. Says, Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says to Moshe, Moshe, Hagur alecha Bezalel. Moshe, I want to choose Bezalel. Is he good? Do you agree for me to appoint him as the one building the Mishkan? Moshe Rabbeinu says, what? He asking me, Amar lo Ribono shel olam Hashem, im lefalecha hagur lefanai lo kol sheken. If you think it's good, it's for sure good enough for me. It's good enough for you. It's good enough for me. Hashem says, no. Even with all of that, afal piken, still, I need your consent. I want you to honestly tell me that is good. And it says, lech emor lahem, and it says, go and get the consent of the people. See, it's not just the humility of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that you learn from this. Also, you learn leadership. A good leader is someone that leads by consent. The concept of the consent of the governed is here in the Torah. It says, the Gemara, halach ve'amar lahem. Moshe Rabbeinu did exactly that. Amar lahem le'Yisrael, haguna lechem Bezalel. Is he good enough? Amru lo. The nation told him, says, if he's good enough for Hashem and he's good enough for you, for sure he's good enough for us. Amar Rab Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yonatan. Bezalel al Shem Chochmato. Bezalel's name was chosen way before because of the tremendous chokhmah that he had. Now, how does that manifest in the name Bezalel? B'sha'ah she'amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe, first wide line, Lech emor lo leBezalel, aseh li mishkan Aaron vekelim. Go tell Bezalel to make for me mishkan and the ark Aaron and the kelim, all the vessels of the Beit HaMikdash of the Mishkan. Halach Moshe behafach. Moshe went and said it in the opposite order. Instead of saying to him in the command, make the Mishkan first and then the kelim, Moshe Rabbeinu first said the kelim and then the Mishkan. Now, we don't know this in the Pesukim. If you go through all the Pesukim of Terumat Saveh, which the first three are the command, the second group of those two parashiyot are the actual account of Bezalel building it. You never find Moshe Rabbeinu saying it in the opposite order, but where the Gemara learns this from perhaps is because when in the account of the actual building of the Mishkan, it says Vayas Bezalel did Kasher Siva Hashem El Moshe. Doesn't say Kasher Amar Moshe. Doesn't say based on what Moshe had commanded him, which is what he should say. It says based on what HaKadosh Baruch Hu had commanded Moshe. How do you know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded Moshe? Must be that Moshe Rabbeinu said something different to him, and he didn't do like that, but he did rather like the original command. Right now, why in the world Moshe Rabbeinu would switch the order? It's not for the scope of this talk. That's a longer discussion, a deeper question. But nevertheless, you see that Moshe Rabbeinu switched the order, and he told him make the Aaron, the kelim, and then he said make the Mishkan. And Bezalel rejected that order. Bezalel challenged it. He says over here, Amar lo. Moshe Rabbeinu told him, Aseh Aaron vekelim u'Mishkan. In reverse order, make the Aaron, the ark, make the kelim, and then make the Mishkan. Amar lo. Bezalel tells Moshe Rabbeinu, he says, wait a second, Moshe Rabbeinu, my Rabbi, our master, our teacher, minago shel olam, the way the world works is you first build a house and then you buy furniture. You don't go shopping for furniture or build your furniture before you even have a house. Where are you going to put them? Afterwards, you enter the kelim, the vessels, the furniture inside. And you're telling me, you're putting Mishkan last. The kelim that I make, where am I going to put them at? So Mishkan. Maybe Hashem told me the reverse order. Maybe Hashem actually said, Mishkan v'Aaron v'kelim. And Moshe Rabbeinu said to him, Amar lo, he said, yes, you're correct. Shema Betzel kel hayita. Maybe you talk where in the shadow of Hashem. I didn't realize the time. Ve'adata, and you knew, and that's exactly what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told me the correct order, and Bezat Hashem will continue this in the days to come.
Oh.
This is too geschmack.